Another big question this offseason is whether or not star Lotulelei will be back. I mispronounced that. How do you say it? I always say Lotulelei.
I've heard that and Lotulelei.
I think that's how it is.
And he responds to both, I think.
Or just star. Obviously, you have no control whether he's going to be back or not. But I think many fans have assumed since Vernon was drafted that Vernon Butler he can be Star's replacement. But is it that easy?
It's not that simple. You know, we like where we are with our defensive tackle rotation. And that's one of the strengths of our defense. I mean, we depend on that rotation. Now, within that rotation are individual talents and strengths and things that guys can do. And certainly Vernon is made progress. Star has started every game that in his NFL career. I mean, he started every football game with the exception of a couple of times where he was not able to play due to injury. So you don't replace that level of experience. You don't replace Star. And at the same time, Vernon's role is in terms of being in a rotation and possibly being a starter. That's important that we continue to develop that. So to me, one has really nothing to do with the other. We value the rotation and we value each person individually.
But could Vernon, because you look at he looks like he has the body of being a star-like nose tackle.
Right.
Could he be?
In Vernon's own right and within his own skill set, Vernon is capable of being a difference-making starter. And so that's how we look at it now. But at the same time, I'm not looking at Vernon to replace Star. Star is important, and that's kind of the way this thing has been built and designed, especially with the emphasis on getting players like that and building your football team from the front back. They're both important.
So at linebacker, as I'm going backwards on the defense now, Thomas Davis, the day after the season, said he was assuming he'd have a reduced role, and then he announced what I think most were expecting, that this would be his final season. How do you see his role in 2018?
Well, the reduced part, we're going to depend on Thomas as much as we ever have. First of all, let's start with that. And so we'll start with that. Thomas's experience, what he's gone through in the 13-odd years that he's been in professional football, fortunately, all with the Carolina Panthers, we're going to pull from that as much as we ever have. And so how and physically how we deploy him in Shaq, that's yet to be determined. But Thomas is as important to us now, in my opinion, as he's ever been.
How would you describe Shaq Thompson's development after his first few years?
You know, Shaq is on the cusp of being a superstar. The versatility, the intelligence, all the ways that you can utilize Shaq and create mismatches and put yourself in a position to make explosive plays against an offense. Every year we find a new way or something different about this young man that we can take advantage of. I'm so excited to have him in our linebacking room along with Luke Kuechly, who is the ultimate pro, who is our quarterback of the defense, if you will, and who continues to demonstrate that he's one of the top players in all of professional football.
You said Shaq's on his way to becoming a superstar. So what does he need to add to his game or improve?
He just needs to keep growing. Just keep growing and developing. It all starts with the foundation of how you play the position fundamentals, and then your knowledge about our system, and how you deploy those things against any opponent. And so as he continues, and he embraces that challenge, by the way. I mean, this is a guy that invests so much in the mental part of getting ready to play as the physical part. So he just needs to keep growing. He's doing everything right, I can tell you that.
Talk about the secondary. Few know that you're the one that came up with the thieves term. I think most people just assumed it was Steve, but
right.
You came up with that in 2015. It seemed like Thieves Abs was closed for a good bit of last year and even a little bit of 2016. What has to improve as far as plays on the ball and getting more takeaways?
Well, like I just talked about with Shaq, it all starts with the position fundamentals. And that starts with our assistant coaches. And we will sit down and we will decide exactly how to establish that foundation for how we want our corners to play and how we want our safeties to play, as well as our nickel corner. We'll establish that. Then we'll continue to develop the instincts based on our system and certain things that have to do with the opponent. You just have to improve those things. And then from a mindset standpoint, Bill, when that ball is in the air, it's a free ball. It's a free ball. And we like to think it belongs to us as much as the receiver who's being targeted. So we're going to make sure that our players, first of all, have that mindset.
You said superstar about Shaq. I think a lot of people thought that maybe James Bradbury has that in him to become one of these top corners in the league. Year two, he didn't grow as much as I think a lot of people expected. What do you see in him?
Well, he checks all of the boxes, first of all. He's got length. He's got the attitude, a very aggressive player. And obviously he has the speed to be physical, to make sure that he can stay over the top. So he checks all of the boxes. We just need to tighten up technique across the board, not just at the corner position. We have been of the philosophy that rush and coverage work simultaneously. So if there's production that we're not getting necessarily from the back half, we have to look at what's going on in terms of the rush and in terms of times that we do deploy an extra person in terms of a blitz. We have to make sure all those systems are working together. We don't isolate one thing and say, okay, that person. It's guys to all work together. So we have to look at everything.
You're obviously an excitable guy, so this is a kind of a hard question to narrow in on. But when you look in this defense, what excites you the most about it?
Wow, that's a tough one. There's not one thing. I guess the one thing, the character. We have a group of guys in that locker room that love to come to work. And you get excited, and it motivates you to want to make sure that you're giving them everything you possibly can give them. That's probably the one thing that stands out. Obviously, we have guys with every tool and every skill set that you could want as a coach, from a desire standpoint in the National Football League at all three levels. But the one thing that really gets me excited about coming to work every day is guys that embrace that process and they want to get better.
Well, I'm excited already. I listen to you when I get a little bit excited. I'm ready to go out there. So if you need some help, I played a little secondary back then.
We'll grab anybody from anywhere if it means we can help our group.
Well, thanks, Eric. Good chatting with you, and I'm sure we'll chat many more times.
Thank you, Bill. It's good to be here.